Poštovani gledaoci, dobar dan. Vi gledate još jedno izdanje Pola sata Demostata. Današnja gošća je ambasadorka Nemačke u Republici Srbiji, Anke Konrad. Madam Ambassador, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon.
Great to have you here today and to have an opportunity to have this conversation with you. So you represent Germany. Let's start with the bilateral cooperation between Serbia and Germany.
So this is very difficult. You said you have half an hour to discuss. So I mean, bilateral cooperation, just to start, it's really broad based. So I mean, I think many people know our development cooperation that stretches for nearly 25 years. So we are going to celebrate this next year, where we are active in all different areas like economy, inclusion, building up democratic institutions, supporting professional education, and the most important thing, energy. So energy is really the pillar of our cooperation. It's also where we started from in 2000. And so this is what we are going to celebrate next year. And of course hope that we will have many more projects to come. But then it's also, I mean, we're having a very good cooperation when it comes to all what is culture. I mean, we have a good institute here. We have very good exchange also between artists, musicians of both countries. Of course, we have also within the Goethe Institute, but also via our teachers who have been sent from Germany to support teaching German at school. But also then just to go forward, we have military cooperation. We have very good cooperation between our federal criminal police institute and Serbian institutions. We have a very good cooperation when it comes to combating cross-border organized crime. So and then we just go on. It's difficult to now name everything, but so our cooperation is very broad, has been developing over the years, and has also been in a way evolving when it comes to quality, not only to quantity. And of course, one thing that I have to mention, normally everybody starts with this, I'm closing with this, and pointing out to our economic cooperation, of course. But this is something that's not the government who's behind it, so that's our enterprises. So they find that Serbia is a place to be, that they want to extend their production or build up new production lines here in Serbia. So, but still, it's also very important.
Definitely. It's quite a fruitful cooperation. But are there areas where we actually could improve cooperation with Germany?
I mean, I have mentioned so far scientific cooperation. I mean, we have via the DAD, the German Academic Exchange, we have a very good program for scholarships, not only for students, but also for young scientists. We have institutions like the German Research Institution, the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, like the Humboldt Foundation for, let's say, academicians who have already gained a certain profile, and I think there's still room. We have partnerships between universities in Serbia and Germany, but I think this is something where we can still build up, where we can have more. And I mean, there are many interesting areas, especially when it comes not only to artificial intelligence, but also the biotechnologies, others. So I think that is an area where we could still do more, and we see already a lot of interest in that.
While we're doing this interview, there are strikes all around us. The universities in Serbia are on general strike. Also, students are protesting these days. Unfortunately, we cannot have an opportunity to see this on national frequencies, on the public broadcaster RTS. We don't see this on other national frequencies. How to you comment this, how such crises can actually be solved in democratic societies such as the German one?
The protests that are now going on, I think they took a route, if I understand well, in the tragedy in Novi Sad, which has cost 15 lives, and it's really something that is outstanding in the dimension. And I mean, what people want to know is how this could happen, and I think that is something that the same kind of questions that also in Germany would be asked, and where also in Germany, and I think in any society, people would seek answers. And I have the impression that these answers are being prepared. I mean, I can't speak now for the authorities in Serbia who are concerned with this, but from what I see, these questions will have an answer at one stage. And so in a way, this is, I think, legitimate for everybody. And but I mean, in Germany, we would have the same kind of procedure. So it's not that I would see there a big difference. I mean, the question is that the answers are coming. I think that is then important, also for people to see that issues are dealt with, and I think what is also very important, that such thing could not repeat. I think that's for people also very important, and there are also questions are raised and answers must be given. So that's all.
Yes, the question of guilty and the question of not repeating, not allowing this to be repeated.
Yeah.
The state of democracy in Serbia is very poor. Rule of law, freedom of media, also human rights, fair and free elections. We hear all the time, we want more fair, more free elections. All these things are actually the foundations of the European Union. That's where Serbia is striving to be. Do you expect the European Union to provide more of these values to Serbia in the future period?
First of all, let me start from just saying that we want the Western Balkans, we want Serbia in the EU. We want to welcome them, and the sooner the better. It's also, there's no doubt, it's also clear that there are still a lot of things that should be done, and the area that is most concerned when it comes to Serbia is questions of rule of law, freedom of media, and democratic institutions, functioning institutions. And this is also known to Serbia. We are talking to Serbia about it. They are aware, and they know that they have to do more in this regard. And so in a way, I understand that now Serbia also has decided that they want to fasten reforms, to fulfill conditions by the end of 2026. I have to say I welcome this, because it's a kind of internal deadline that Serbia has set. So it's from what I see from talks that I had with members of the government, there are steps to fasten the whole process. But of course, it's also very important. I mean, one thing is, of course, legislation that should be put in place. This is one thing, but the other thing, of course, is to implement it. So not only legislation, but then also have an institutional environment, let's say, where these laws then also implemented. And that's very true if it comes to media. So we hear that there are law on public media is being prepared. We still are waiting also for some amendments to the media laws that were adopted last year, because there are still some EU standards that are not adequately reflected there. We have the REM where we are expecting that as soon as possible that new members are elected in a fair and inclusive process. And of course, we also then expect REM to fulfill the mandate that it is given, because unfortunately we haven't seen this in the way we would have liked to. So in brief, there are things where Serbia there's still work to do. I would also like to mention also alignment with the common foreign and security policy, where we expect more progress. And it's also of course the normalization of relations with Kosovo. I was very happy to see that both sides have reconfirmed recently their dedication to implement Ohrid, so this is very important. And of course, we also hope for accountability when it comes to the events in Banjska in September 2023. So that would be all. And just to conclude and to state something that we are always stating, I mean, first, we stand ready, as we've done in the past, to support Serbia in every step that is taken here. And the second, I'm convinced that Serbia could be the front runner.
That's very positive,
yes.
Especially when you have into consideration the fact that the Serbian president recently stated that Serbia aims to fulfill all the conditions since the end of 2026. How realistic is this?
I don't think that you could just judge and say, no, that's not realistic, that's too much. I think it's very positive statement. And then it really, and as I've said, when talking to members of government, I've seen that there is a new dynamic. And I think, and we should, I think, all support this dynamic, because, I mean, the reforms that are linked to this process, to the accession process, that's something that many people here in Serbia, most of them, wish to see. So what could be better than just having everybody into the same goal? So and this is it's a challenge. I wouldn't say that this is easy, but also we are also willing to support this fastened procedure and to see this, of course, seeing that we not only need laws, we also need accompanying institutions. We need to see it in practice. I think that's also what people expect from this process, not a number of laws, but they want to see what did it change in my daily life. And I think that's the most important.
And trust those institutions, I suppose.
This also comes then when you have good laws, when you have institutions that are working according to this, I mean, then you will also have trust.
Yeah, very important. The latest Demostata's public opinion research showed a very big mistrust when it comes to Serbian institutions. So that's definitely one of our biggest problems right now. But how realistic is it for any Western Balkans country to actually become a part of the European Union during the term of this European Commission?
Realistic? It is possible. Yeah, stand with this. It is possible. It depends to good side on simply having a focus. In every country, we've seen this now with Montenegro, with Albania. They have a very clear focus since some time on going ahead, becoming a member of the European Union, doing it as quick as they can. So, and we've seen what with this focus, what is possible. So why wouldn't it be possible for Serbia? We also see that let's say not all are in the same position, but I think that when you are having front runners, 1, 2, or 3, then you also create a dynamic that is beneficial for the whole region. So in a way, I think that it is realistic And we should work on it, and not us every day if we haven't been too unrealistic, but simply go ahead.
Very optimistic also. So it's not just realistic, but also very optimistic approach. So let's stay optimistic in this sense. A couple of days ago, we saw President Vučić meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. They discussed how German experts could actually help Serbia when it comes to preserving our environment in the future, let's say, mining periods with some potential new mines in Serbia, lithium included. How do you comment? What's your comment on this visit? How do you see that? Is it a step forward?
First of all, I mean, it stems from the commitment that the Chancellor has already expressed in July during the raw material summit, that we are ready to support Serbia in exploring lithium. And so in this regard, this visit is part of this process, because I think it's always good to exchange. I mean, we had last week, just to say, we had also first visitors trip of some journalists, representatives of opposition parties, but also of the government in Germany on a 1-week trip. So they were able to talk, if you want, to all stakeholders, starting from the government level, but also NGOs, think tanks, going also to see the project in Zinnwald. So I think they also had an opportunity to see how the different stakeholders are cooperating with each other. And I think one of the big issues here exactly is the question of how to avoid to a maximum degradation of the environment, protection of groundwater, of drinking water. And I think these exactly the issues that had been also in the focus of the visit of President Vučić in Saxony. And again, also in parallel, right now we are having a mission of GIZ here in the country, talking to Ministry of Environment, but also to NGOs, just also to explore already where exactly would be the areas where we could support with expertise. So we have prepared for that. We are having funds that we are able to use for this, because we think that it's important to build up expertise here in Serbia, and of course we also hope that this project will also result in cooperation on a scientific level, and that it goes much beyond mining lithium, but also then excludes also not only different angles in economic cooperation, but also when it comes to scientific cooperation as a whole.
Madam Ambassador, in the third decade of the 21st century, we saw something that is called the law on foreign agents. So this is modeled after Putin's Russia. It reminds us of Putin's Russia. It reminds us of some Soviet Union. Let's say it has that vibe. It has that kind of feeling. So democracy in Serbia, as we have said previously, is at a very poor state, at a very low level. With this law on foreign agents, are human rights even more endangered? What shall we expect from this?
From what I understand from yesterday's press conference of President Vučić, he has clearly stated that this draft law has no support. I won't say any much more on this, but I mean, when it comes to civil society, I mean, civil society has a very important role in any society, because first, civil society is a kind of a watchdog in a positive sense seeing where there might be problems arising, seeing where maybe there are specific vulnerable groups who need more attention. So in a way, but also on the other hand, providing new ideas on how to better the environment, better your city, making it greener, or let's say, just developing society, making it more inclusive, bringing out talents, integrating those that have special needs in many areas, because civil society it's all. It's if it's catering for minor refugees, for catering for the elderly. Very often civil society is an important part of support, especially for vulnerable groups. So in a way, every society should support civil society, and so in a way, not having them would make us not only poorer, but it will also contribute to a society that is less just than you would like to have it. So encouraging people, even at school already, to just go around with open eyes and open ears and see. I mean, it all starts at school when there's a decision on shouldn't we have some more clubs in the afternoon? Why don't we have a choir? Why don't we have a sports group? So it's civil society is not only about politics. Civil society is many times and most often about things that are around us in our daily life. So I think having such a source of ideas, I think every society should harbor and harvest this, and include civil society in policy decision making.
And
they might sometimes. I mean, civil society, they might also sometimes be something where you would just no, we don't want to talk about this issue. And so, but still, it's better to listen to them, and to see what can be done, and to discuss with them together how you can together address situations, than not. And I mean, I have also my own experience also from my work. I was for 4 years. I was responsible for two human rights reports on Germany's human rights cooperation with other countries, but also on Germany's human rights situation in the country, which we were obliged to do. And it's not. There's no society where you wouldn't have civil society. There's no society that hasn't flaws, that hasn't areas where still more could be done. So civil society is a normal part of us, and a very important actor at the same time.
That's why it's so important to preserve the civil society and not to allow any future drafts of these, let's say, foreign agents, how they call it, laws. Getting back to the German-Serbian cooperation in the military sector, how do you assess it? Is it at a satisfactory level, or what do you think of that? Is there space for improvement?
I think in every form of cooperation there's always space for improvement. But yes, our cooperation, we have a memorandum of understanding between Germany and Serbia on cooperation. So there are discussions, there are regular meetings. We are providing also material support to Serbia. There are mutual trainings, and so in this regard, we are doing already a lot. As I said, there's always room for maneuver, but so there's, it's not that we are not having it.
Germany is a part of NATO. What's NATO brought to Germany? What would you say that are the benefits that Germany actually got of becoming part of NATO allies?
NATO, first and foremost, is a security and defense alliance, and where those who are a member protect each other. So it's all for one and one for all, and so in this regard, it's. It has been created to better the possibility and the basis for lasting peace in Europe and in the transatlantic room. And if you look at cooperation that we are having, it's exchange on information. It's being able to assess together the situation around us, geopolitical developments, but it's also very much on when it comes to the military cooperation in the proper sense, and it's very much also about having defense systems that are interoperational, that are completing each other, because in the end, the more we cooperate, the more that we integrate, the stronger we are.
Especially in these uncertain times when we see wars all around us. Starting from January, your embassy, as well as the embassy of Finland, are going to be the so-called contact points for NATO in Serbia. Can we explain to our listeners and spectators what does it mean to be an embassy that is at the same time a contact point for NATO?
Okay, yes, we are called contact point embassies. So we are not kind of external mission of NATO. So just to start with. So, but our task is communication. Just in very shortly, it's because what I see here is, of course, if you look at NATO in Serbia, so we see that. In the end, there's not much information here about NATO. It's all related to one event. So what we would like to do is to have more public discussions on what is NATO. NATO is first and foremost, as I said, is a security and defense institution. So just to let's say put away myths about NATO. Just to explain NATO's vision of security challenges, also talking about security policy. Security policy is not simply the number of tanks and helicopters that you are having. It's much more. Security policy stretches over so many areas, and especially now with hybrid and cyber challenges that we are having. So it has to broaden itself. So security is much more than the question of war and peace. Security is also the question of having an adequate environment where you can develop capacities of all the countries, and where you can also develop freely. So it's so to discuss all these security policy issues. So that's where we would like, together with Finland, provide the platform. We are doing this in close cooperation also with the Serbian government. But we would like to simply open a more broader and more comprehensive vision on what NATO is doing, and maybe in doing so also being able to address some of the maybe misunderstandings, maybe also prejudices that exist when it comes to NATO. Anyway, if we look at cooperation of Serbia with NATO or with NATO member states, last year there were more than 200 let's say exercises and projects that were done together. So it's not to say that there's no cooperation between Serbia and NATO. Serbia's Partnership for Peace member since 2006. So there are there are already many areas and many things that link Serbia to NATO, but we think that it's very important also to work on and to clarify, if we can communicate on what NATO is also to a broader public. So we are very much looking forward to having more broader public discussions, open discussions, and also allowing people to ask questions about NATO. And we hope that we can provide answers. That means not only me and the Finnish ambassador or our military attaché, but also to invite people from NATO member states who can simply enter into discussions here in Serbia. And this is our main task.
That's a wonderful message. I'm also looking forward to see more, especially when it comes to the communication with and among our citizens about NATO, about what the benefits of NATO could be for all of our citizens in the future. Very last question for this TV show. We were talking about opening, we were talking about human rights, about NATO, about Serbia's future in the European Union. We have seen a very bad situation when it comes to public frequencies, when it comes to national frequencies, when it comes to RTS, Radio Televizija Srbije, so the national broadcaster, since they are not open for critical thinking, they are not open for the opposition parties still, unfortunately. How could your country help this become, let's say, better and opened, more open environment for critical thinking and for opposition?
I think always that change has to come from inside. So it's nothing that you can just command or instigate in any way from outside. But I think what simply is very important that you have a sound legal basis. So media laws that create a basis for an independent public broadcaster. Who gives place to everybody and to all political factions. I mean, we also have it in Germany. I mean, the AfD, for instance, although many political parties would say that they would never cooperate with them. But still, you can see them on public radio, on public TV. So it's not that they are not given a voice. And even though there might be some who say no, I don't want to see them, but that's then their choice. But otherwise, I mean, it's simply a general understanding. Of course, what we also need to see is that we have journalists who are well educated, who have in a way also embraced professional ethics when it comes to writing their reports about, but also when it comes to choosing issues that they would like to report. I mean, there are also many things in daily life that I don't see mirrored in neither media. Where I would like to learn more or see more also on TV, but still I think it's a question of having first a legal basis, but also a common understanding on the role of media, and of course then also a legal basis that is implemented. Let's
hope that regional initiatives could also help this. We've seen many regional initiatives such as the Berlin process. Do you think that the Berlin process actually showed results when it comes to not just opening these issues and resolving them, but also when it comes to the regional cooperation?
The Berlin process is multifaceted. If you look at it, yes, it has an economic pillar. I mean, the common economic area, I think it's very important for the whole region. If you see how many institutions are cooperating in all 6 countries on customs issues, but also on the question of simply trying to overcome long queues at the borders, but also in adapting to standards, having common standards on trade. I think that's very important. If you see at mobility, that is really advanced in this time. If you look at roaming costs that are zero within the whole Western Balkans. But also if you see then that this is by far not only economic, but if you see that the many stakeholders that you're having RICO, youth exchange, where more than 25,000 people already have met, have cooperated in different projects. You see that parliaments are now meeting. You see that we have a specific Roma ministerial, because Germany is very engaged also, especially in this question, and I'm seeing to raise the issue of Roma and supporting their full integration into societies wherever in the Western Balkans. But also if you see that we have a normality of dialogue, I think that's one of the biggest achievements. When it comes, we are having all the ministerial meetings, interior, foreign ministers, ministers of trade, economy meeting. I think that's very encouraging. And we also see that from next year on, also ministers of social affairs will meet. So it's a next step. If we see at initiatives that had been started within the Berlin process, which are now part of the EU growth plan, like SEPA, integration, where discussions started 2-3 years ago within the Berlin process. If you look at green lanes, with transport or trade with EU member states will be fastened and made more easy. So I think it's very good that in a way, I mean, the Berlin process is not kind of pre-step towards the EU, but it simply helps in many ways to prepare countries while cooperating with each other here in the region to also strengthen their ability to cooperate with the European Union, with its member states. So in this regard, I think it is really a success. And sometimes I wish that it would be more commonly known, because I mean, also, especially when it comes to the work with young people. I mean, we have this super school competition every year. I've seen and I've met so many engaged school directors, but also youth from schools who have prepared projects just to be part of this growing group of schools who are cooperating together, even after the actual project with one or two other schools in another country have finished. So in a way, I mean, it brings together people. It makes dialogue, it makes cooperation a normal thing. And we hope very much, because there's also one part of the Berlin process where still we need more should be done, but also it should be coming from inside, and that's reconciliation and being in the end able to talk about the 19th.
Wonderful message for the end. Mm-hmm. We hope to see more communication when it comes to both Serbia becoming part of the European Union and of NATO. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Poštovani gledaoci, gledali ste još jedno izdanje emisije Pola, sata, Demostata. Moje ime je Tamara Bajčić. Do sljedećeg viđenja. Doviđenja.